4 a.m., the shocking truth of my cheating wife's secret. A man's voice whispered back, forever changed. The clock struck 4 as Ethan's heart raced. Shadows danced in the quiet, swirling like ghostly whispers in his dimly lit bedroom. He stumbled out of sleep, breathless, gripped by a sense of impending doom. Something wasn't right. An eerie tingle crawled up his spine, setting every nerve on high alert. The air felt thicker, almost electric. As he turned towards Sophie, his wife, he found her side of the bed empty, cold and untouched. Panic bubbled inside him. Where was she? A nagging thought gnawed at him like a hungry beast. She had been distant lately, her laughter exchanged for hushed secrets and the glow of a phone in the middle of the night. His mind raced back to last week, when her best friend had dropped a strange comment, "You should try not to worry so much about her." How had she known? Ethan shook his head, trying to dispel the shadows of doubt as he swung his legs over the bed. The chill of the wooden floor sent a shiver through him. Taking a deep breath, he crept down the hall. With each step, the house creaked ominously, the silence thick enough to slice. Outside, the wind howled, making the branches scrape against the window like desperate fingers. He reached the kitchen, and the soft light illuminated a figure hunched over the kitchen table. It was Sophie, but she wasn't alone. Who was that man with her? Ethan's heart dropped into his stomach, tears prickling at the corners of his eyes. The man's voice sliced through the air, low and gravelly. "You need to tell him it's over, Sophie. There's no turning back now." For a second, time froze. His world spun. Those words felt like a punch to the gut. What had he walked into? He pressed himself against the wall, inhaling sharply as if every breath was a stab of betrayal. Sophie looked up, her expression shifting from shock to something darker, a flash of fear in her eyes. But then, the unthinkable happened. The man turned his head, and Ethan felt a chill rush through his veins. Their eyes locked. There was something familiar about that chilling gaze. And then it hit him. This voice, this piercing look, it was the voice he heard in his nightmares. Ethan, it echoed in his mind, sending waves of confusion through him. "Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Ethan's mind raced. He could feel the weight of the universe crashing down on him. Trust shattered, his heart pounding like a war drum. What was happening? Why was the man in his house, in his life? Just then, Sophie's phone buzzed with a message, illuminating the table in a ghostly blue glow. There it was, a name he hadn't seen in years. How could this be? Before he could piece it together, the ground beneath him felt unsteady. He barely whispered, "What's going on?" But the truth was about to crush him under its weight. And somewhere, in the back of his mind, a single thought screamed for attention: what if everything he believed was a lie? Ethan's heart raced faster. The name on the phone screen burned into his memory like a branding iron. It was Jake. His old friend, the one he hadn't spoken to since the fallout years ago, the very friend he had thought he lost to betrayal. A tidal wave of confusion washed over him, mixing anger and disbelief. His mind was spinning, and every thought felt like a tornado ripping through his consciousness. Jake? Why are you here? He chuckled darkly to himself, not expecting an answer. This only made him feel more trapped, like a caged animal. He wanted to burst into the kitchen, but his body froze, stuck between fight and flight, watching the scene unfold like a horror movie. Sophie looked shaken, her eyes darting between Ethan and Jake, pleading for an escape from the brewing storm. "Ethan, I can explain," she stammered, but her voice trembled as if the weight of her secrets was pulling her under. Every instinct screamed at him to confront her, but his legs wouldn't cooperate. Explain. Ethan's voice broke, the word leaving him sharply. After all this time, now you want to explain. A heavy disbelief hung in the air, palpable and thick. A part of him wanted to hear her side, but another screamed for the truth, the raw, unfiltered truth. It's not what it looks like. Sophie's face twisted with desperation, her fingers gripping the edge of the table as if it were the only thing anchoring her to reality. One glance at Jake told Ethan everything he needed to know. This was not a mistake, it was a carefully crafted betrayal hiding behind sweet words and stolen glances. Suddenly, Jake leaned forward, his voice slick like oil. You don't understand, Ethan. This is bigger than you think. It's always been bigger. His words dripped with a sinister assurance, and Ethan's blood ran cold. What in the world did he mean by that? The atmosphere thickened, heavy with unspoken truths. Ethan could feel the walls closing in, each breath becoming more labored. Conflicting emotions warred within him: rage, sorrow, and an inexplicable sense of foreboding. Why had Sophie kept Jake in her life? Why now? And, strangest of all, why was this unfolding now, in the darkest hours of the night? Ethan's chest tightened with frustration. What do you mean bigger? What are you two involved in? There was a slight hesitation, the faintest crack in Jake's assertive facade, before he smiled, a smile that sent chills crawling up Ethan's spine. You're not ready for this, Ethan. But you will be. You have a right to know, it's just complicated. Complicated? Ethan's voice rose, edging closer to a yell. You want to tell me it's complicated? You're in my house with my wife, and you think anything about this makes sense. Just then, Sophie, her voice trembling, reached for Ethan's hand, her eyes pleading. Ethan, please. You have to trust me. I'm doing this to protect you. Protect him? A cruel laugh bubbled inside him, but he suppressed it with all his might. Protect me or protect yourself? What kind of twisted game is this? A sudden silence filled the room, thickening the air. The wind's moan outside felt oddly quiet compared to the turbulent storm brewing within him. He needed answers. He felt a yearning to strip the lies bare, to peel back the layers of deception, no matter how torn it might leave him, but just as he opened his mouth to demand the truth, the lights flickered, plunging his world into darkness. A pounding sound erupted from the front door, an ominous knocking that echoed through the home like a death knell. Ethan's heart skipped. Who was it? The last thing he wanted was for their night of betrayal to escalate into something even more dangerous. He looked at Sophie and Jake, both wearing terrified expressions, their secrets hanging in the air like a ticking bomb. What do we do? Sophie whispered, voice barely audible, fear swimming in her eyes. As he approached the door, a low growl reverberated through the walls, sending chills racing down his spine. He turned back to face them. Whatever happens next, I need the truth. The knocking grew louder, more insistent. Ethan clenched his fists, ready for whatever lay ahead. What would open that door? And just as he reached for the handle, a voice boomed from the other side, echoing through the night, chilling him to the bone. Ethan, open up. You want to miss this. His heart sank deeper. What deeper danger lay behind that door? Ethan hesitated, his hand hovering over the doorknob. The voice outside was laced with an unyielding confidence that sent shivers down his spine. It felt like the storm had finally made its way inside, brewing a frenzy of emotions that threatened to swallow him whole. What do we do? Sophie's voice quivered, her fear palpable as she clung tightly to the table. Keep quiet, Ethan hissed, his eyes narrowing on Jake, who remained unnaturally calm, a smirk playing on his lips. It infuriated Ethan. Was Jake enjoying this? The pounding on the door didn't relent. You really should open up, Ethan. This is for your own good. With every shout, dread layered over Ethan's skin like a second, suffocating layer. What could possibly be worth knowing at this hour? His mind raced with the possibilities. Was it more betrayal, or was it a hidden danger that had finally caught up to them all? Ethan, what if it's someone dangerous? Sophie whispered, her wide eyes shimmering with anxiety as they flicked toward the door. Jake leaned back against the counter nonchalantly. Or maybe it's someone who can finally tell you the truth, Ethan. That might be harder to face than you think. The insinuation twisted Ethan's stomach into knots. Truth. Only one truth mattered right now. Why were they here, creaking in shadow and secrets? He forced himself to breathe, centering his racing thoughts. He couldn't let fear dictate his actions, not now. If you don't tell me everything, he said, directing his gaze first to Sophie and then to Jake, I swear I'll open that door. Don't, Ethan. You don't know. Sophie's voice trembled, but before she could finish, the voice outside cut through the night again, low and sharp. You're wasting time, Ethan. You will regret it if you don't let me in. A sudden break in the urgency of the knock echoed through the house as Ethan took a deep breath, tension flooding his veins. What are you hiding? He demanded, voice sharper than he intended, like a blade slicing through the thick tension. Silence hung, thick as fog. Each second dragged like an eternity. Finally, Jake stepped out of the shadow, his earlier bravado fading. You really should listen to her, Ethan. There are things we can't change. They are coming for you. Ethan's heart sank. What do you mean? Who's coming? What the hell is going on? Before Jake could respond, the growl returned, sounding almost animalistic now, rattling the windows. Fear, raw and palpable, exploded within him. Open the door. The voice boomed again, sharper, demanding. You need to choose now. Do you trust her? Or me? Ethan's mind reeled, trapped in a vortex of uncertainty between the only two people he felt he could trust. And Jake's cryptic tone made his gut churn. I know you're scared, Jake said, stepping closer, face serious now. But trust me, if you want to keep Sophie safe, you have to listen. Why should I trust you? Ethan shot back, his fists clenched, breathing hard. Because I'm here to help you. Jake's voice was urgent, intense. Then, as if in response to the tension, a flash of lightning lit up the night, brightening the room for just a second. Sophie's face lit with terror, and within that instant, Ethan saw something flicker in Jake's eyes. Regret? No. Something darker lingered. The knocking stopped suddenly. An echo of silence filtered in as Ethan felt the weight of their choices crush in around him. Every instinct screamed at him to protect his heart from more pain. What now? Sophie whispered, trembling. Ethan's breath hitched. He had to make a decision, the kind that could change everything. Was opening this door really the answer? Or was it just a trap? What secrets lay on the other side, waiting for him to let them in? The seconds dragged on painfully, bearing down like the storm outside. And with each passing moment, Ethan knew he'd have to confront the truth, no matter how terrifying it might be. Just as he stood resolved, the voice returned, softer now yet suffused with an unnatural calm. Ethan, I know what happened that night. You really need to let me in. There are lives at stake. For a split second, doubt gripped his heart. What did that even mean? And as the clock struck 4, a sudden loud crash shattered the stillness of the night. Ethan turned to Sophie and Jake, who were frozen in fear. What had he just unleashed? And now, where would it lead? Ethan's heart pounded, a war drum echoing in his chest. The crash had felt like the final call to arms in a battle he never wanted to fight. He glanced at Sophie, her face pale and shadowed in the dim light, and Jake, who seemed more a figure of darkness than a friend. A long breath caught in his throat as terror washed over him, mixing with confusion and rage. What was that? Sophie's voice trembled like a whisper of wind against the glass, fear dancing at the edges of her tone. Stay here. Ethan barked, more forceful than he intended. He couldn't break, not now. Not when it felt like everything was at stake. Where are you going? Jake asked, his eyebrows furrowing as if he sensed the reckless defiance in Ethan's eyes. I need to see what is happening. Before he could change his mind, Ethan crossed the living room, heart racing as he approached the door. The shadow on the other side felt stronger now, threatening to overtake him. Ethan, please don't. Sophie cried out, her voice cracking, but he was already reaching for the doorknob, feeling the cold metal bite against his palm. Trust me. He shouted back, bracing himself for whatever lay beyond. He yanked the door open, and the sharp wind whipped against him. The storm outside raged as if the night were trying to swallow him whole. Rain pelted down, and the world was a chaotic blend of darkness and sound. But the street lay calm. No one. Nothing. Only the debris from a nearby tree, smashed against the ground. See. Nothing. Suddenly, Sophie's shriek pierced through the silence. Ethan spun around to find her staring wide-eyed at Jake, and in that breathtaking moment of distraction, the air shifted, the growl outside had returned, louder this time, resonating through the very walls of the house. Jake! Sophie screamed, the desperation in her voice raw, a knife twisting in Ethan's gut. And then Ethan realized Jake was no longer standing at the counter. He was right behind Sophie, an unsettling smile creeping across his face as he stared at Ethan. Do you see now? The truth is much more terrifying than you thought. What are you talking about? Ethan instinctively took a step backward, heart racing, the hairs on his arms bristling. Just give in, Ethan. Jake's tone was different now, almost hypnotic. There's no escape from your past, or from me. The window rattled violently from a gust of wind, and a flash of lightning illuminated Jake's features. His eyes glinted with something wicked, and panic surged in Ethan's heart. Get away from her. Ethan shouted, his voice cracking, desperation fueling the fight in his bones. But Jake merely chuckled, the sound hollow and chilling. You still don't understand. She knows. Sophie knows everything. What? Sophie, what does he mean? Sophie's expression shifted from fear to guilt, and Ethan felt the rush of ice run through his veins. I didn't want you to find out this way, no. Ethan could barely choke out the denial. Listen. Jake interrupted, voice rising over the chaos outside. You need to confront this, Ethan. There are worse things than your past awaiting you. With every word Jake spoke, the air felt thicker, suffocating. What are you saying? Ethan rasped, his mind racing. The voice outside returned, low and menacing. Ethan, the night isn't over. There are secrets bound to the truth, the real question lies within you. In that moment, Ethan felt trapped in a nightmare, his breaths shallow. The weight of Sophie's stare felt like a judgment as he desperately sought answers, and just then, the lights flickered. Darkness descended, and the howling wind outside rose to a deafening roar. All at once, the room was plunged into shadow, and with it came an ominous silence. Make your choice, Ethan whispered the voice from the darkness, echoing eerily in the silence. Ethan's chest tightened as the shadows loomed closer, drowning hope with sheer terror. What choice would he make under the crushing weight of truth? He had only moments before the storm would break once again, and then, would there be any turning back? Ethan's eyes darted around the room, desperate for light, for something familiar. The darkness pressed in, a blanket of fear choking him. Sophie stood frozen, the pale glow of her fear lighting her features, reflecting the struggle that surged in Ethan's chest. Stop. Both of you. The command slipped from his lips, a plea mingled with authority. But the shadows only grew thicker, wrapping around him. Jake's laughter broke through, slicing through the silence like a knife. Choice. Oh, Ethan, it has already been made for you. You just don't see it yet. His voice slid like oil, smooth but rancid. Ethan's memories collided in a whirlwind. Secrets buried, truths dodged. Did Sophie really know? What more could there be to discover? The wind screamed outside, howling like something alive, sentient, intent on tearing the world apart. Ethan turned to Sophie, his heart racing against the tide of despair. "Sophie, what are you hiding?" She blinked, visibly trapped between him and Jake. "I didn't want to hurt you," she whispered. The guilt in her eyes pierced him, deeper than any knife, unbearable and raw. "Didn't he want to hurt me?" Ethan's voice cracked, panic clawing at him. "What have you done?" Jake leaned forward, pulling the energy from the room like a predator savoring a feast. "It's not what she did, it's what you're too blind to see. The truth lies in the choices we make, Ethan. Yours most of all." The shadows coiled around Jake like a shroud, illuminating his sinister smile. "This isn't just about the two of them. It's about you, your past. Your failure to protect those you cared for." Ethan's pulse raced back to that night years before when he had stood helpless, watching as everything spiraled out of control. The flashes of betrayal, abandonment, memories he thought were long buried, crashed against him like the storm outside. "Shut up!" Ethan roared, the anger exploding from him. "You don't know anything." But Jake shook his head, undeterred. "I am everything you discarded, Ethan. Every scar you carved, every hurt you incited, they're screaming still. And Sophie? She's merely a reflection of your decisions, your mistakes." "Stop!" Sophie cried, her hands trembling. Ethan swayed, caught between two forces pulling at him. "Sophie, just tell me. What does Jake mean? Why do I feel this weight?" Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I didn't want to tell you, I thought I could fix it. Protect you. It was all to save us." Anguish twisted Ethan's gut. "You think this is about saving us? This is crushing me." Just then, the lights flickered back to life, briefly illuminating 5 faces in the chaos: Ethan, Sophie, and the malevolent grin of Jake, twisted in shadow. The growl outside morphed into a hurricane of sound. Ethan blinked back, tears, the weight of the past and present converging. "Time's running out, Ethan," Jake's voice oozed through the tension. "The truth waits for no one, and it doesn't care if you believe." With that, a series of bangs echoed from outside, sending Ethan bolting toward the door, heart pounding. "What's happening?" he shouted, his voice lost amid the storm. The true horror was yet to be revealed. The night was alive, and as the door burst open, the chaos outside flooded, and something was coming, something monstrous, and it whispered his name, curling around him like an icy finger. Ethan. Caught on that edge of revelation, an unsettling truth thrummed beneath the surface. What waited on the other side of fear? What would he find when he faced it head-on? The night was shaping itself into a monster of memories, twisting with each breath. Would Ethan dare confront this darkness? Would he have the strength to unravel what had already been set in motion? The storm and the shadows cried out, the question echoing louder than the howling wind: will he choose to fight, or submit? Ethan barely had time to register the door swinging open before the wind crashed into him, carrying the sense of rain-soaked earth and something metallic, something sinister. The chaos he had seen outside was more than just a storm. It was a shadow, a force of nature that demanded attention, drawing him in like a moth to a flame. That he stumbled forward, squinting against the harsh gusts that ripped through the open doorway. But before he could step outside, Jake's voice sliced through the chaos like a sharpened blade. "What's out there is not the only threat, Ethan. Look at Sophie." Ethan's heart raced as he turned. Sophie stood frozen in the flickering light, eyes wide, lips trembling. Her distress was palpable, rippling through the air around them. Ethan, her whisper was torn by the wind, and he could feel the weight of her fear. "Stay back!" he yelled, lunging toward her, but the shadows before him writhed and twisted, an impenetrable wall bearing its fangs. "Ethan, listen." Sophie's voice was urgent, desperate. "I was trying to protect me," he shouted, frustration boiling. "How can you protect me if you're hiding?" Jake stepped closer, his grin devilish, fangs visible in the fleeting light. "She's not the only one hiding, Ethan. Ask yourself what you've run from for so long. Why do you think you're here? All at once, the memories surged forward, suffusing his mind with images, his mother's face contorted with rage, the piercing scream of a childhood friend lost to shadows. The night's torment was reawakening. There was something deeper, something he had buried beneath layers of guilt and fear, but its stirrings threatened to break loose. Ethan shook his head violently, trying to shake off the encroaching darkness. No. Not again. Outside, thunder cracked, a deafening roar that drowned out everything else. Yet it changed the air, thickening it with dread. He could feel it, a force begging him to step outside, beckoning to confront whatever had awakened in the storm. Step outside, and you'll face your past, Jake taunted, echoing his own internal fears. No. Sophie screamed, as if sensing the deadly choice blossoming between them. That's just what he wants. Don't give in to Jake. Don't let him control you. For a heartbeat, time stretched thin. Ethan's world narrowed to her voice against the background of chaos, a lifeline in turbulent waters. But Jake's laughter rippled through the night like silver edges of ice, sharp and cutting. You think she's your salvation? It's too late, Ethan. The moment you opened that door, the choice was made. The storm was always coming for you. Ethan clenched his fists, teeth gritted. The fabric of reality felt like it was tearing. He glanced back at Sophie, her fear reflected in his eyes, yet so was something else, a flicker of hope, a light fighting against the dark. Suddenly, the shadows around them thickened, coiling like serpents ready to strike. But with that came a surge of energy, a resolution. Ethan took a deep breath, letting chilling air fill his lungs, grounding him. Stop! He bellowed, a newfound strength bursting from within him. I want to let you win, Jake. I'll face whatever it is that's waiting for me out there. The sounds of the storm reached a fever pitch, swirling chaos that forced his heart to beat faster. Ethan turned, his eyes locked on the dark expanse beyond the door. The whispers, the shadows, and the truth all lay waiting. Then so be it, Jake sneered, stepping aside as the wind howled in agreement. In that moment, Ethan felt the overwhelming weight of destiny. Every choice he ever made, every hurt he ever inflicted, all leading him here. I choose to fight. As he crossed the threshold, the storm howled louder, an electric anticipation crackling through the night. But at what cost? What monstrous truth lay ahead, waiting to claw its way into the light of day? And just like that, the ground shifted beneath him, a rumble of energy spiraling up from the depths of darkness. Ethan, the wind howled, 1,000 voices mingled into one, and he could feel something monstrous preparing to emerge. What was it? The truth? The past? Or something far worse? As he stepped into the storm, it became painfully clear, freedom from the past came with a price, and that price might be more than he was ready to pay. What if fighting for his freedom meant unleashing something he could never control? Ethan staggered as the tempest surged around him, an all-consuming whirl of wind and shadows. His heart pounded, each beat seemingly drowned by the growl of the storm. The ground quivered beneath his feet, as though it echoed his turmoil. Dread coiled tightly in his chest, threatening to spill forth tears of fear and regret. Don't turn back. Sophie's voice pierced the chaos, but he was already lost, ensnared by the storm's chaotic energy. Taking a hesitant step forward, he felt a sharp pull, a force dragging him deeper into the abyss of his own making. Lightning flashed, illuminating the dark sky, and for a moment, the world around him transformed. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall and menacing, drenched in rain and fury. It was a reflection of his darkest self, a person he had tried to bury but couldn't escape. Welcome home, Ethan, it hissed, voice like shards of glass. Who are you? Ethan demanded, stepping back, yet unable to tear his gaze away. I'm you from the past. The you that abandoned your dreams, your friends. The figure smirked, every word dripping with disdain. You left them all to rot, didn't you? Each accusation struck him like a hammer, rattling old wounds. Memories surged, the laughter of friends turned into their desperate pleas for help. He had walked away, thinking he was saving himself. But here it was the truth clawing back at him. No. He shouted, scrambling to regain control. I'm not that person anymore. Thunder rolled above him, and that dark version laughed, a cruel mockery against the booming storm. You think you can simply walk away? The storm isn't just threatening out there, it's boiling inside you. Just then, the shadows around Ethan swirled, coalescing into a tortured reflection of Sophie, a ghost of heartbreak and despair. Ethan, please. Her voice trembled, racked with the pain of countless unspoken words. You can't fight what you've buried forever. The electric tension hung like static in the air as Ethan battled between the haunting truths surfacing and the fervent hope that flickered like the dying embers of a fire. He felt its warmth against the cold grip of panic. You're wrong. I'm ready. Suddenly, a gust of wind twisted through the air, enveloping him like a lost friend. He could hear the whispers. It was a chorus of his regrets, of the moments he had left behind, of the lives intertwined with his. He looked toward the door, feeling Sophie's presence like a tether binding him to the world of light where hope still thrived. Ethan. She cried. Come back. Fight for us. Fight for the truth. Enough. He roared, determination igniting within him, pushing through the dark veil pressing down on him. I will not be consumed by what I was. I will face you. The storm erupted in a frenzy, swirling around him like a cyclone threatening to tear apart everything he knew. But with each breath, Ethan found strength in the trembling hope churning inside his heart. He faced the darkness, daring it to strike him down. In that moment, the storm responded, a cacophony of chaos and fury, and with it, Ethan understood that the storm was alive. It was tied to him, as much a part of him as the memories he fought to ignore. You're not my master. I'm taking back my life. As lightning tore through the heavens, illuminating the battlefield where light met darkness, Ethan felt a surge of powerful energy coiling around him. This wasn't just a fight for survival. It was a showdown between who he was and who he would become, but just when he thought he had seized control, the shadows lunged forward, silent and swift. A shriek echoed a cry that seemed to ignite his veins with terror. What have you awakened? It whispered, revealing only the surface of the horror lurking just below. Something terrible was coming, and it was ready to claim him. What had Ethan unleashed? The real test was about to begin, and he wasn't prepared for the consequences. Fight it, Ethan. Sophie cried, her voice lost in the cacophony of the storm. Amidst his fear, a new question emerged: could he ever truly fight what he had awakened within? Would he risk everything to find out? With every heartbeat, the darkness drew closer. He took a deep breath, standing firm against the encroaching shadows, ready for whatever was about to emerge. But he couldn't shake the feeling, a primal instinct that whispered, not all shadows can be defeated. What awaited him next? The shadows twisted, a whirlwind of darkness coming alive around Ethan, whispering urgent secrets he couldn't fully comprehend. The air grew thick, suffocating, swirling with unspoken fears. Each gasp pulled him deeper into the unknown, his eyes fixated on the dark figure looming before him. Do you even know what's lurking inside you? The figure taunted, a sinister grin spreading across his face. Ethan felt sick, as if he could vomit all the regrets he had swallowed over the years. No. He shouted, struggling against a wave of despair that threatened to pull him under. But the echoes of past decisions weighed heavy, a chain dragging him deeper into oblivion. Lightning slashed the sky, exposing glimpses of the battlefield where memories fought for dominance. He saw the faces of his friends flicker like distant stars, funny, joyful, full of life. Then, flashes of their devastation as he turned his back, leaving them stranded in pain. Face it, Ethan, the dark self hissed, its voice winding painfully around him. You have done nothing worthwhile. You abandoned them, and they will never forgive you. Ethan's heart raced, each beat echoing the simmering conflict within. The storm surged, and he could feel the energy pulling at him, fierce and unrelenting. His throat tightened, and he struggled to hold on to the remnants of who he was, who he wanted to be, yet the shadows crept closer, whispering promises of impending doom. You can't escape this. You're bound to your actions, and they will come for you. Enough! He screamed, elbowing through the barrage of relentless doubts. Digging deep, he summoned something he thought was lost, a flicker of defiance ignited by Sophie's desperate cries reverberating in his mind. Ethan! Sophie's voice wrapped around him like a warm blanket. You're more than your failures. Remember the strength you have. A flash of clarity surged through him, igniting the tiny ember of hope. In that moment, the winds shifted, becoming less a whirlwind of chaos and more a fierce ally. Ethan's resolve solidified. He thrust his hands forward, feeling the weight of each regret start to lift. I'm not afraid of you. You don't define who I am, he bellowed into the storm. The darkness recoiled, as if stung. But just when victory seemed within reach, the shadows erupted once more, morphing into something monstrous. Tendrils reached out like grasping hands, their cold clutches grasping at his heart. An ear-piercing shriek filled the air, making his bones rattle. You're not free, Ethan. You will always belong to us. Panic surged. He staggered backward, stumbling toward the edge of the raging storm, where the remnants of warmth flickered in Sophie's memory. No! He cried, desperation clawing at his insides. Lightning struck nearby, blinding him for a moment, and when his vision cleared, he was met with a chilling sight. The shadows had coalesced into a female figure, Sophie, but not quite. Her eyes glinted with malice. You thought you could escape. You thought you could change. Not you, he whispered, horrified. You shouldn't be here. You don't belong to this. Her laughter danced through the air, mingling with the thunder. But I'm a part of you. Always have been, always will be. You're not ready for what's to come. With every heartbeat, the storm intensified, shadows writhed, and the air crackled with distorted energy. Ethan felt the truth crushing him, the terrible weight of reality pressing down as the horizon darkened. What had he truly awakened? Just then, a flame ignited within him, a fire of fierce resolve, burning against despair. I will not be yours. He shouted, pushing against the encroaching darkness. The moment hung in the air, thick and heavy, as he prepared to make a final stand. But the shadows shifted, changing shape, beckoning and taunting him. Even now, Ethan questioned whether he could face the darkness that had turned against him. Was he strong enough to confront this twisted reflection of Sophie? With the storm raging on, a chilling uncertainty settled over him. In the midst of chaos, a new revelation dawned, a revelation that could either shatter him completely or set him free. Ethan, the shadows whispered, the truth waits just beyond the storm. What truth lay hidden in the murky depths? And more importantly, was he ready to confront it? The shadows surged forward, wrapping around Ethan like a vice. He gasped, heart hammering, each pulse resounding with dread as he faced the twisted figure before him. The remnants of Sophie washed over him like a memory long lost. Step closer, Ethan, the dark image whispered, its voice slithering dangerously close. What if I told you that everything you cherish, everything you fight for is tainted? Are you ready to see the truth? He stood frozen, wrestling with the grim reality. Knowledge was power, but it felt like a thundering black pit within. Show me, he dared, forcing the words through a throat raw with fear. Instantly, the storm around him erupted. The darkness roared, morphing into visions that spun and swirled like a chaotic dance. He watched helplessly as fragmented pieces of his memories sharpened, echoes of laughter turned into sobs and faces shifted from brightness into shadow. No! He shouted, trying to shield his eyes. But the darkness had its grip, pulling him in, compelling him to witness. He saw Sophie, not as the warm presence he cherished, but as a fleeting silhouette, embraced by another figure, a man cloaked in shadows. The piercing pain of betrayal struck him like a thunderclap. Why? The question exploded from his lips, a howl swallowed by the storm. Because you were too busy trying to escape your own darkness to see what was close to you, the shadowy reflection of Sophie taunted. You were blind to what unfolded right under your nose. Pain shot through him, a physical manifestation of reality unraveling. Rage surged alongside, a desperate urge to lash out, to break free from this hellish purge of truth. The figure distorted, its features blurring with revenge and sorrow. Did you really believe you could outrun your past? It hissed. Ethan staggered back, confusion swelling. He had fought so hard against the guilt and shame, against the storm of darkness inside him. But now the truth was like fire, searing him from the inside out. No, no, he gasped, shaking his head as if to dismiss the haunting visions. I want to let this be true. He stumbled forward, towards the darkness, determination igniting within him. And as if sensing his defiance, the storm roared with rage. Shadows lashed out, tendrils wrapping around him again in a desperate, clawing grip. You think you can change? You're already too far gone, Ethan. Through clenched teeth, he bared the strength he had been clinging to. You're wrong. He yelled, forcing himself forward. I've faced the storm. I've battled with my demons. I will not give in. With a fierce will, Ethan reached out, his fingers brushing against the darker semblance of Sophie. Heat surged, defiance burning bright, and for a heartbeat, he felt a spark of connection, a recognition of love amidst the chaos. Ethan, her voice echoed, soft for a fleeting moment. It's in your hands now. You choose what to believe. Then everything shattered. The storm erupted, a blinding flash of light illuminating the darkness. The figure of Sophie split apart, revealing shards of her essence, each sliver holding memories both bitter and sweet. They twisted around him, drawing him deeper into a vortex that pulled at his heartstrings that he was losing himself again. No. He screamed as shadows swirled tighter, threatening to consume him whole. I refuse to be lost. And in that desperate moment, a question lanced through his mind: what are you willing to sacrifice to uncover the truth? As the world spiraled away and darkness threatened to engulf, the weight of every choice, every regret surged around him like a rushing tide. Was he ready to face not just the reality of Sophie, but also the truth about himself? With every ounce of energy, he gripped tighter onto the flicker of light within, fighting against the storm's powerful grip. The echoes of his past screamed louder, the shadows howling in despair. What will you do, Ethan? What will you become? And with that question reverberating in his mind, light flickered tenuously, hinting at a new dimension waiting to be unveiled if only he could summon the strength, but just before he could grasp it, a menacing voice cut through the tempest. The truth is more horrific than you can imagine. Will you take that plunge? Ethan's world spun, darkness clawing at his mind like a ravenous beast, and yet, knocking right at the edges of reason was a single, blazing ember of hope fueled by Sophie's voice. Her essence flickering yet resilient wrapped around him as he fought through the shadows threatening to swallow him once more. You have to choose. She pleaded, her voice cutting through the storm like a lighthouse guiding a ship to safety. Enough with the games, Jake. Ethan blasted through gritted teeth, the figure of his past smirking just out of reach, taunting him. I won't let you control me anymore. The dark version of himself flickered and snarled, a twisted reflection of all his failures. You think shouting will change anything? You can't run from yourself, Ethan. You're haunted by your own choices. I'm not who I used to be. He shouted back, each word a testament to his fierce new resolve. I've fought through the storm, and I'll fight through the darkness again. The fierce wind swirled around him, drowning out the sound of his past's lingering taunts, fueling his determination. Suddenly, the shadows shifted, morphing into the twisted image of Sophie. Ethan, please don't do this. You don't understand what's at stake. She implored, the guilt in her eyes piercing through him. Don't sacrifice your future for the ghosts of your past. No. He bellowed, a tidal wave of anger and desperation rushing forward. No more lies. No more hiding. I will not allow you to pull me into your darkness. The storm raged, and in that chaos, a sudden clarity illuminated his mind. It was time to confront the truth, to take ownership of his past, and to reclaim his future. Heart racing, he steadied himself, stepping forward into the terrifying abyss to face this dark manifestation head-on. "I'm done being afraid," he declared, his voice a thunderclap against the raging storm. "I accept my mistakes, but they do not define me. I am more than what you make me feel." The shadow convulsed, twisting in fury, and for a fleeting moment, Ethan saw a glimmer of understanding flicker across its features, a realization, perhaps. Suddenly, the dark figure recoiled, the hold it had on him wavering. "Then feel it," it howled. "Feel the truth of your failures. The lives you left behind." Ethan clenched his fists, feeling the pulse of raw adrenaline surging through his body. "I know the truth, Jake. I embraced the storm, and I won't turn back now. This time, I stand with my heart wide open even if it breaks." The storm howled, wailing like a tempest set free. But at the same moment, Ethan felt Sophie's warmth within him, a radiant force he could no longer ignore. "Ethan, fight with love, not fear." Her voice rang through him, clear and powerful. With those words, a spark ignited within him. Memories surged, faces of friends, the laughter, the joy, the connections he had cherished, intertwined within his heart. "I choose love," he shouted, and in that moment, the storm erupted with light. The very shadows that had wrapped around him began to unfurl and dissolve, revealing warmth where there once was darkness. The dark figure wailed in agony as it cracked, splintering and rearranging, shifting from a monster into a mere shadow of Ethan's past. Each piece broke apart, leaving Ethan standing in the storm, alive, renewed. As the wind settled, revealing a calm brightness, Ethan heard Sophie's gentle voice once again. He turned, and she was there, her face lit with hope. "You did it, Ethan. You faced your darkness." Tears brimmed in his eyes and poured down his cheeks as he stepped toward her. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly as if afraid she might disappear. "I was so scared I'd lose you," he whispered, trembling against her. "I'm not going anywhere," she promised, the deep affection clear in her gaze. "We're stronger together, no matter what shadows lie ahead." Ethan breathed in, the smell of rain mixing with the softness of Sophie's hair. The storm outside had quieted, just like the tumult within. He could feel the weight of his past, but it no longer strangled him. Instead, it felt like an anchor. Of lessons learned, strengths gained. As they stepped back, the remnants of the storm lingered in the air, and Ethan knew they would face whatever came next together, bolstered by everything they had fought for. With hand in hand, they stepped forward together, etching their path into the dawning light of a new day filled with possibility, and just like that, the shadows receded, leaving behind only the truth and the promise of hope. Now, if you have enjoyed this culminating chapter and need more stories that inspire, you need to subscribe now. Don't miss any exclusive content that's coming your way. Smash the like button now to help feed the algorithm and support the journey. And this is the moment to flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about the ending. Let me know what you think. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion. Let us uplift and connect through these stories together.